For those who understand the law of assumption, you recognize that everything in your world, every circumstance, every person, every opportunity is arranged by your own wonderful human imagination. And your presence here now is evidence that you have already begun to awaken to your divine nature, to your God self. Let me tell you something marvelous. Your consciousness is God, not a part of God, not a tiny fragment of divine energy, but God in entirety expressing as you. I and my Father are one, but man has yet to discover this greatest of all truths. You wear the mask of a particular personality with specific limitations and problems, but behind that mask is the limitless I am. The I am that speaks through your thoughts and feelings is the same I am that brought forth all of creation. When you say I am, you are announcing the presence of God, for that is his name forever and ever. And whatever you attach to those powerful words becomes your reality. Now, many of you have studied various metaphysical teachings, you've read books, attended seminars, practiced techniques. Yet you still find yourself waiting for your desires to manifest, wondering if perhaps you're doing something wrong. Let me assure you, the only thing standing between you and your desire made manifest is your concept of time and your belief in process. In the realm of spirit, where all creation truly takes place, there is no time. There is only the eternal now. In that now, everything you could ever desire already exists. It is finished, complete. Your job is not to create your desire anew, but rather to enter the state where your desire is fulfilled, to live from the end. When you imagine yourself in possession of your desire, feeling the naturalness of having it, enjoying it, experiencing it as real, you are literally entering that state in consciousness. And since consciousness is the only reality, what you have assumed in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. It has no choice, for that is law. As within, so without. Your outer world is nothing more than the objectification of your inner assumptions. Every person, every circumstance in your life is there because somewhere in consciousness you have assumed it to be so. This is not to place blame, but to awaken you to your incredible power. Imagine for a moment that you are in a dark room, and within this room are infinite rooms, each one containing a different state of being. One room contains wealth beyond measure. Another contains perfect health. Another contains a loving relationship. Every desire you could possibly imagine exists in its fulfilled state in one of these rooms. Now, you cannot see these different rooms because of the darkness, but you can feel your way around. How do you know when you've entered a particular room? By the feeling it evokes within you. If you've entered the room of wealth, you feel the distinctive feeling of being wealthy. If you've entered the room of health, you feel the unmistakable feeling of vitality coursing through your veins. Your emotional reactions, your feelings, are the currency of manifestation. When you can genuinely feel wealthy before the money appears in your bank account, when you can feel love before the specific person enters your life, when you can feel successful before the outer signs appear, then you have mastered the art of manifestation. But most of humanity lives in reverse. They wait to feel wealthy until they see money. They wait to feel loved until someone shows them love. They wait to feel successful until they achieve outer success. And because of this, they remain stuck, waiting for circumstances to change so they can finally feel what they desire to feel. I am telling you now, reverse the process. Feel first, and the outer manifestation must follow as a natural consequence. This is the meaning behind faith, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is not a wishy-washy hope that things might improve someday. Faith is the actual substance, the actual feeling of your desire fulfilled now. Consider the story in Scripture where Jesus cursed the fig tree, and the next day the disciples marveled that it had withered away. Jesus told them, "Have faith in God. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith." What was Jesus revealing here? The secret of manifestation. When you speak to your mountain, your problem, your challenge, your unfulfilled desire, you must speak with absolute conviction, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing. knowing with such certainty that doubt finds no place to root in your consciousness. This absolute knowing comes from having already experienced the end in imagination. When you have lived the experience so vividly in imagination that it feels more real than your present physical circumstances, then you have planted the seed that must grow into manifestation. Now let's address something that keeps many spiritual seekers trapped: the constant search for the perfect technique. You may have tried affirmations, visualization, scripting, acting as if, and countless other methods. And while these can be valuable tools, they are just that, tools. They are means to an end, and that end is the state of consciousness where your desire is already fulfilled. The techniques themselves have no power. The power lies in your consciousness, in your ability to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. If a technique helps you capture that feeling more effectively, then by all means use it. But never mistake the technique for the real work, which is the assumption of the state. Every day, countless people repeat affirmations without feeling, visualize without conviction, and act as if while still believing they're pretending. This divided mind, this attempt to serve two masters, keeps their desires at bay. Choose this day whom you will serve, your present circumstances or your desired state. You cannot serve both. When you truly understand the law of assumption, you realize that what appears as reality is actually just a shadow, a reflection of past assumptions. It has no power to create your future unless you continue to give it power through your attention and belief. Your current circumstances, no matter how convincing they may seem, are nothing more than echoes of past thoughts. The outer world is dead. It has no life of its own. The only thing that is truly alive is your consciousness, your awareness. And within that consciousness, you have the power to assume any state whatsoever. As you persist in that assumption, the outer world must reshape itself to match your inner conviction. Think of it like this: your consciousness is like a projector, and the screen is your three-dimensional reality. Whatever film you run through the projector will appear on the screen. If you don't like what you see on the screen, there's no use in trying to change the screen directly. You must change the film, the content of your consciousness. Let's go deeper now. Many of you have heard that thoughts create reality, and while there's truth in this statement, it's not quite accurate. It's not your thoughts that create reality, it's the state from which those thoughts flow. A state is a complete package of thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and assumptions that together form a cohesive experience of being. For instance, the state of being wealthy includes not just thoughts about money, but also how you feel about yourself, how you perceive opportunities, how you interact with others, how you make decisions. When you enter the state of wealth consciousness, all these aspects align naturally. You don't have to force positive thoughts about money. They arise spontaneously from the state. This is why simply trying to think positive thoughts while remaining in a state of lack is so difficult and ultimately ineffective. You're trying to produce thoughts that are inconsistent with your state. Instead, change the state, and the thoughts will follow automatically. How do you change your state? Through the controlled use of your imagination. Your imagination is the bridge between your current state and the desired state. When you enter imagination with clear intention, you temporarily leave behind your current state and experience the desired state directly. With persistent use of imagination, you gradually shift your primary state of consciousness until you naturally dwell in the state of your fulfilled desire. This is not pretending or fooling yourself. This is awakening to different aspects of the infinite being that you truly are. Remember, all states already exist. You're not creating the state of wealth or the state of health or the state of love. These states are eternal aspects of consciousness, available to anyone who can assume them. Your work is to select the state you prefer and occupy it through the power of assumption. Now, some of you may be wondering, if it's this simple, why haven't I manifested my desires yet? The answer is found in two places: persistence and immediacy. Most people do not persist in their assumption long enough for it to become their dominant state. They imagine their desire fulfilled today, but tomorrow they're back to worrying about their problems. They affirm their wealth in the morning, but spend the afternoon complaining about bills. This vacillation between states prevents any one state from fully expressing itself in reality. The solution is to persist, not with strain or effort, but with the calm knowing that what you have experienced in imagination is more real and more substantial than temporary physical circumstances. Physical reality is fluid, constantly changing to reflect your dominant state. If you persist in the assumption of your desire fulfilled, physical reality has no choice but to conform. The second factor is immediacy. Many believe that after they imagine their desire fulfilled, there must be a waiting period, a gestation period before manifestation can occur. But this is a misunderstanding of the law. In consciousness, there is no time. The moment you truly enter the state of your wish fulfilled, the outer circumstances begin reorganizing themselves to match that inner reality. What appears as delay is actually the time it takes for you to fully enter and occupy the desired state. Once you are truly in the state, manifestation is instantaneous. What you're waiting for is not the universe to catch up with your desire, but for you to catch up with the version of yourself who already has what you want. This brings us to another crucial point, your identity. Who do you believe yourself to be? This self-concept acts as a thermostat, regulating what manifestations are allowed into your experience. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with money, then even if you temporarily manifest some wealth, your self-concept will eventually bring you back to financial struggle. To create lasting change, you must revise your self-concept. You must see yourself as the person who naturally experiences what you desire. Not someone who is trying to get something, but someone who already has it as a natural expression of who they are. This identity shift happens from within. It's not about changing your behavior to match some external ideal. It's about recognizing that you are already that which you desire to be, and then allowing your outer behavior to naturally align with this inner knowing. I want to address a common misconception now. Many spiritual teachers speak of letting go or detachment from your desires as a necessary step for manifestation. And while there's wisdom in this teaching, it's often misunderstood. True detachment is not about caring less about your desire. It's about detaching from the need for your desire to manifest in a particular way or time frame. It's about detaching from the anxiety and doubt that come from living in lack. When you have truly assumed the state of your wish fulfilled, you are naturally detached, because in your consciousness, you already have what you desire. There's nothing to be anxious about. Think of it this way. Are you anxious about receiving your next breath? Of course not. You breathe without thought or concern because you know the air is there for you. This is the kind of naturalness you want to cultivate regarding your desires, not indifference, but absolute trust. Another misunderstanding revolves around action. Some interpret the law of assumption to mean that physical action is unnecessary. If it's all about consciousness, they reason, then I don't need to do anything. This misses the point entirely. Action will always be part of the manifestation process, but when you're operating from the correct state of consciousness, the actions you take will be inspired and effortless. They will feel like the natural next step rather than forced effort. You won't be acting to get your desire. You'll be acting from the state of already having it. Imagine a wealthy person. They take actions consistent with wealth. They invest, they make purchases, they create new ventures. These actions flow naturally from their state of wealth consciousness. They don't strain or struggle with these actions because they align with their self-concept. When you assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you will find yourself naturally taking actions that align with that state. And these actions will be far more effective than actions taken from a state of lack, because they carry a different energy and intention. Now, I want to speak specifically about the timing of this message finding you. As I said at the beginning, it is no coincidence that you are hearing these words now. Your consciousness drawn this message to you because you are ready for the next step in your awakening. Many of you have been feeling a stirring lately, a sense that something significant is about to shift in your life. You've been experiencing synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem to be guiding you towards something. This message is part of that guidance. The universe, which is really your own expanded consciousness, has arranged for you to receive this confirmation now. Because you have been asking for clarity. You have been asking for a sign that you're on the right path, that your desires are valid and possible for you. Consider this your sign. Consider this your confirmation. The very fact that these words are resonating with something deep within you is evidence that you are ready to step more fully into your manifesting power. Now let me address something that may have been troubling some of you. You may have had experiences where you applied these principles, assumed your desire was fulfilled, and yet nothing seemed to happen. Or worse, the opposite of what you wanted appeared in your life. First, understand that this is not evidence that the law doesn't work. The law is operating perfectly at all times. What these experiences reveal is that there was something in your consciousness that you were unaware of, a contradictory belief, a fear, or an attachment to your current circumstances that was stronger than your assumption of the new state. This is actually good news, because it means that as you become more aware of these contradictions in consciousness, you can address them directly. You can revise them, release them, and create more internal congruence. One powerful way to identify these contradictions is to pay attention to your natural thoughts and feelings throughout the day. Not the thoughts you're trying to think, but the thoughts that arise spontaneously when you're not monitoring yourself. These reveal your actual state of consciousness. If you find thoughts of worry, lack, or doubt arising frequently, don't judge yourself. Simply recognize that these thoughts are showing you what needs to be revised in consciousness. Each one is an opportunity for transformation. Remember, revision is not just for past events, it's also for revising your concept of yourself. When you catch yourself thinking from a limited state, gently shift your awareness back to the truth of who you are, a divine being with infinite potential, temporarily expressing through a human form. Let's talk about resistance for a moment. When you begin to consciously create your reality, you will inevitably encounter resistance. This resistance might show up as doubt, fear, or conflicting desires. It might manifest as criticism from others or challenges in your circumstances. All of this is normal and part of the process. Resistance doesn't mean you're doing something wrong or that manifestation isn't working. It simply means you're moving against the momentum of your past thinking. Just as a vehicle needs more force to change direction when it's already moving, your consciousness requires persistent focus to shift from established patterns to new ones. The key is to recognize resistance without engaging with it. When doubt arises, don't fight it or feel guilty about it. Simply observe it, then gently return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Each time you choose your desired state over resistance, you strengthen your new assumption and weaken the old patterns. Now, let's discuss a concept that is often overlooked in discussions of manifestation, the Sabbath. In the biblical tradition, the Sabbath represents rest, not physical rest, but mental rest from striving. In terms of conscious creation, entering the Sabbath means reaching a point where you no longer feel the need to work on your manifestation, because in consciousness it is done. When you have fully assumed the state of your wish fulfilled to the point where it feels natural and normal, when you no longer feel anxious about when or how it will manifest, you have entered the Sabbath. This is the true meaning of let go and let God. You let go of the effort of assuming because you have successfully planted the seed in fertile soil. Now you simply allow it to grow. Many miss their manifestations because they never enter this Sabbath state. They constantly dig up the seed to see if it's growing, thereby disrupting the very process they're trying to complete. Trust is required here. Trust in the law, trust in your imagination, and ultimately, trust in yourself as the operant power. Another aspect of manifestation that deserves attention is gratitude. True gratitude isn't about saying thank you for something you hope to receive in the future. It's about feeling genuine appreciation for something you experience as already yours. When you assume the state of having your desire fulfilled, gratitude flows naturally. You're not grateful in order to get something, you're grateful because in consciousness, you already have it. This gratitude is not a technique, but a natural expression of your assumed state. For many of you, what I'm sharing may seem familiar. You've heard aspects of this teaching before, perhaps in different words or from different traditions. Yet something keeps bringing you back to these principles. Something keeps drawing you to this message of your creative power. That something is your own divine nature calling you to awaken more fully. Part of you already knows everything I'm sharing. My words are simply reminding you of what you've temporarily forgotten. The amnesia of human experience has covered these truths, but they remain within you, waiting to be remembered. As you listen to these words, feel for the resonance of truth within you. Not intellectual agreement, but a deeper knowing, a recognition. The part of you that recognizes truth doesn't need proof or validation. It simply knows. This recognition is your divine self communicating with you. It's telling you, yes, this is who we really are. This is what we're capable of. Listen to this inner knowing. Trust it. It will guide you more surely than any external authority ever could. Now, let's address a practical concern. What about other people? If your consciousness creates your reality, what about the free will of others? What about circumstances that seem to involve multiple pill people? Here's the liberating truth. Everyone in your reality is an aspect of your consciousness, not their actual soul or being, but your experience of them. The version of your friend, your boss that appears in your reality is shaped by your assumptions about them. This doesn't mean they don't have free will in their own reality, but in your experience, they will reflect back to you your assumptions about who they are and how they behave. Change your assumption about someone, and you will see a change in their behavior toward you. This is why forgiveness is so powerful. When you truly forgive someone, you are revising your concept of them. You are no longer binding them to past behaviors in your consciousness. This creates space for a new expression of that relationship in your experience. The same principle applies to groups, institutions, and even global situations. Your experience of these collective circumstances is shaped by your assumptions about them. Change your assumption, and your experience will change regardless of what others continue to experience. This is true freedom. You are not at the mercy of circumstances or other people. You are the author of your experience, the creator of your reality. Everything you perceive is a reflection of your own consciousness, giving you the opportunity to know yourself more deeply. Now, I want to address something that may be troubling some of you who are spiritually inclined. You may be wondering, isn't this focus on manifestation and getting what I want somewhat selfish? Shouldn't I be focusing on higher spiritual aims? This is a false dichotomy. Your desires, all of them come from God, because you are God individualized. The impulse to have, to do, to be more is the divine impulse of expansion expressing through you. It is not selfish to fulfill your desires. It is the purpose for which you are here. Moreover, as you fulfill your desires and experience greater abundance, love, health, and joy, you naturally have more to give others. You cannot give from an empty cup. By filling your own cup, through conscious creation, you ensure that you have plenty to share. The most spiritually advanced beings are not those who have renounced desires, but those who have fulfilled their desires and transcended, recognizing that the real joy was not in the thing desired, but in the expansion of consciousness that came through the process of manifestation. So do not apologize for your desires. Do not minimize them or think them unspiritual. Honor them as divine impulses, calling you toward greater expression of your true nature. As we move toward the conclusion of this message, I want to emphasize the importance of faith, not blind faith in some external power, but faith in the law that never fails and faith in yourself as the operant power. This faith is built through experience. Each time you successfully manifest something, no matter how small, your faith grows. This is why it can be helpful to start with smaller manifestations that don't carry heavy emotional charge or strong contradictory beliefs. As you prove the law to yourself through personal experience, your confidence grows. Eventually, you reach a point where doubt becomes impossible because you have seen the law work too many times to question it. This is mastery. But even before you reach that point of complete confidence, you can borrow my faith. I stand before you as evidence of what is possible when you fully embrace these principles. Everything I have shared with you comes from direct experience, not theory. I know these principles work because I've tested them thoroughly in my own life. The universe has arranged for our paths to cross at this precise moment because you are ready for this message. You are ready to step more fully into your creative power. You are ready to remember who you truly are and what you are capable of creating. This is your manifestation confirmation. The fact that these words found you, that they resonate with something deep within you, is confirmation that you are on the right path. Your desires are valid. Your power is real. Your manifestation is already complete in consciousness and is moving toward expression in your physical reality. All that remains is for you to choose. Will you continue to be defined by your past, limited by your circumstances, controlled by your fears? Or will you claim your divine birthright as a creator, as God individualized in human form? The choice is yours as it has always been. But know this, having heard these words, having felt their resonance with your own inner knowing, you can never fully return to unconscious creation. A seed has been planted in your awareness that will continue to grow. Your manifestation journey has reached a crucial turning point. From this moment forward, you will begin to see evidence of your creative power more clearly. Synchronicities will increase. Your manifestations will accelerate. Your confidence will grow. Trust this process. Trust yourself. All that you desire is already yours in consciousness. Allow it to express itself in your experience by maintaining the assumption that it is done. Remember, you are not working toward your desire. You are simply recognizing what is already complete. In the realm of spirit, where all creation takes place, your desire is fulfilled. Your work is to align your humanness with this spiritual fact. As you leave this message today, carry with you this one truth: you are the operant power in your life. Not circumstances, not other people, not luck or chance or fate. You, through your assumptions, create your reality. Use this power consciously. Use it lovingly. Use it with the knowledge that as you lift yourself, you lift all of humanity. For we are all connected, all expressions of the one divine consciousness exploring itself through infinite variations of human experience. The universe arranged for you to receive this message today as your manifestation confirmation. Now go forth and create deliberately with joy and confidence, knowing that all things are possible to the one who believes. Remember, imagination creates reality. What you assume, you become. The world is yourself pushed out. These are not just pretty metaphysical sayings. They are the fundamental laws of consciousness by which your entire reality operates. Test them. Prove them to yourself. And as you do, watch in wonder as your life transforms before your eyes, reflecting back to you the limitless being that you truly are. This is your divine inheritance. Claim it. Live from it. And share the fruits of it with a world that desperately needs the light of conscious creators. Now, in this moment, feel the truth of what I've shared. Feel it not as an intellectual concept, but as a living reality within you. Feel the power that has always been yours. Feel the freedom that comes from knowing you are the author of your experience. This feeling is your manifestation confirmation. Trust it. Live from it. And watch as the universe, which is really yourself in a grander form, responds by showing you evidence of your creative power everywhere you look. It is done. That power that created and sustains all things is not outside of you, it is within you. It is your consciousness, your awareness of being. The universe cannot say no to you because the universe is not separate from you. You are the universe expressing itself as a human being, having a temporary human experience. Tonight I want to share with you the secret of effective prayer. Prayer is not begging or beseeching an external deity. Prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When you know how to ask properly, there is no power that can say no to your request. Let me share with you a passage from Scripture that reveals this truth. In the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, we read, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." The secret lies in these words. Believe that you have received it. You must first assume the feeling of already having what you desire before it can manifest in your world. Most people are constantly asking from a state of lack and wondering why their prayers go unanswered. They pray and affirm but remain in the same state of consciousness, that does not have what they are seeking. This is the fundamental error. To ask in such a way that the universe cannot say no, you must ask from the state of fulfillment, not from the state of desire. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret and the art of successful prayer. Let me illustrate this principle with a simple example. If you desire financial abundance, do not pray by saying, God, please give me more money, or universe, I need financial freedom. This is asking from lack, and your very prayer is a confession of your current state of poverty. Instead, you must assume the feeling of already being financially abundant. How would you feel if you were already financially free? What thoughts would occupy your mind? How would you carry yourself? What conversations would you have? When you assume the feeling of financial abundance, when you sleep in the assumption that you are now financially free, you are asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. For the universe can only reflect back to you your own conception of yourself. Remember the words of the prophet Isaiah, before they call, I will answer. This is a profound psychological and spiritual truth. Before you call, before you ask, the answer is already prepared. Your assumption, your state of consciousness, determines what you will call for and consequently what will be answered. I recall a gentleman who attended one of my lectures in New York. He approached me afterward and said, Mr. Goddard, I have been praying for a promotion in my company for 3 years with no results. I asked him, how do you pray? He described a process of visualization where he would see himself being congratulated, receiving a new title and a higher salary. But I asked, what is the feeling you embody after this visualization? He confessed that he returned to feeling frustrated that it hadn't happened yet. I told him, you are undoing your prayer with your subsequent feeling state. You must not only visualize the end result, but also sleep in the conviction that it is done. I suggested that he assume the feeling of already having received the promotion before going to sleep each night. Within 2 weeks, he received not just a promotion, but a position 2 levels higher than he had initially sought. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must understand that your conscious assumption, though false to your senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The time it takes for your assumption to become fact depends on the naturalness of the feeling, how deeply are embracing the new state. Now, there is another aspect to asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, and that is detachment. Many of you have heard of the importance of detachment in manifestation, but detachment is often misunderstood. Detachment does not mean not caring about your desire. It means complete faith that it is already yours in the spiritual realm and must, by law, materialize in the physical realm. True detachment comes from the conviction that what you have assumed in consciousness is already a fact in the spiritual realm, which is the realm of causation. The physical realm is merely the realm of effects. Cause always precedes effect. Your consciousness is the cause. Your world is the effect. Let me share with you another example to illustrate this principle. A young woman came to me in despair over her marriage. Her husband had left her for another woman, and all logical evidence suggested that the marriage was over. I asked her if she truly wanted her husband back, and she confirmed with tears in her eyes that she did. I told her, your task is simple but not easy. You must assume that your husband has returned and that your marriage is more harmonious than ever before. You must live from the end. When you go to sleep at night, feel the joy and gratitude of having your husband back. Feel his presence beside you in bed. Hear his voice expressing his love for you. Feel the wedding ring on your finger. Do this with conviction, and the universe cannot say no. She practiced this faithfully for 3 weeks. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, unexpectedly, her husband called. They met for coffee, which led to dinner, and within a month he had moved back home. But here's the interesting part. He told her that during those 3 weeks he couldn't stop thinking about her. He felt inexplicably drawn back to her, despite his logical mind telling him to stay away. This is how the law works. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are exercising the divine power within you, which is your imagination. And your imagination, sustained with conviction, will externalize itself in your physical reality. I want to emphasize that this is not mere positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is the application of an immutable spiritual law. The Bible calls it faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the feeling of possession of the things desired. Faith is coming from a state of knowing, not hoping or wishing. Now, let us delve deeper into the mechanics of this process. How exactly do you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled? It begins with a decision. You must decide what you want to be, to have, or to experience. Be specific. Be clear. Then, you must construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire. For instance, if you desire a new home, create a scene where a friend is congratulating you on your beautiful new home. Feel their handshake or embrace. Hear their voice. Smell the freshness of your new space. Feel the emotion of pride and gratitude for having your new home. This scene, if constructed with sensory vividness and emotional intensity, and if persisted in until it takes on the tone of reality, will materialize in your physical world. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, because you are not asking in the traditional sense at all. You are claiming, you are appropriating, you are assuming. You are exercising your divine right as a creator made in the image of God. I must stress that this principle applies to every area of your life: health, wealth, relationships, career, spiritual growth, and more. There is no limit to what you can achieve through the proper application of your imagination. Consider the case of physical healing. If you are experiencing illness or physical discomfort, the conventional approach is to focus on the problem, to fight against it, to see it as an enemy to be conquered. But this keeps you locked in the consciousness of illness. Instead, assume the feeling of being perfectly healthy. Feel the energy coursing through your body. Feel the joy of pain-free movement. Feel the gratitude for your robust health. This feeling state persisted in will manifest as physical well-being. I recall a woman who had been diagnosed with a chronic condition that doctors said was incurable. She came to me in desperation, having exhausted all medical options. I taught her this principle of assuming the feeling of her wish fulfilled. I instructed her to go to sleep each night in the assumption of perfect health, to feel the joy and gratitude of being completely healed. Within 3 months, she returned to her doctor for a checkup, and to the doctor's astonishment, there was no trace of the condition. The doctor called it a spontaneous remission, a medical miracle. But it was no miracle in the sense of a violation of natural law. It was the perfect operation of the law of assumption. She had changed her concept of herself, and her body reflected that new concept. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, what about the time gap? What about the waiting period between my assumption and its manifestation in the physical world? This is where most people falter. They cannot sustain the faith through the interval of time. They begin to doubt, to question, to look for results, and in doing so, they revert to the old state of consciousness, the state of lack. The key is to understand that time is merely a psychological construct, a measurement of the interval between events. In the realm of spirit, in the realm of consciousness, there is no time. Your desire is already fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment. The time it takes to materialize in the physical realm is determined by various factors, including the naturalness of the state to you and the degree to which you persist in the new state. Do not be concerned with the how. The universe, God, your own wonderful human imagination, will take care of the how. Your job is to remain faithful to the end, to the state of fulfillment. As you do this, the bridge of incidents will form naturally to lead you to the physical realization of your desire. Let me give you another example to illustrate this point. A man desired to travel to a foreign country, but lacked the financial means to do so. Instead of focusing on the lack of money, he began to assume the feeling of already being in that country. Each night before sleep, he would imagine smelling the distinct aromas of that country's cuisine, hearing the local language being spoken, seeing the famous landmarks, and feeling the unique texture of the local fabrics. He persisted in this assumption for several weeks. Then, out of the blue, he he received a call from a company that was expanding into that very country. They had seen his resume online and wanted to interview him for a position that would require him to relocate there. Not only would they cover his travel expenses, but they would also provide a salary that far exceeded what he was currently earning. Was this a coincidence? There are no coincidences in a universe governed by law. It was the perfect externalization of his internal state. He had asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. I must also address a question that often arises. What about the desires of others? What if my desire conflicts with someone else's? This stems from a misunderstanding of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness is one, although it appears to be many. There is only one God, one imagination, expressing itself through countless human forms. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not imposing your will on another. You are simply attracting to yourself the circumstances, people, and events that match your state of consciousness. Everyone is you pushed out. The world is yourself pushed out. What you see in others is a reflection of your own consciousness. If you want to change your world, change your concept of yourself. As within, so without. This is the ancient Hermetic principle, and it is as true today as it was thousands of years ago. Now I want to share with you a technique that I have found particularly effective in assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the technique of revision. Revision is the art of mentally rewriting a past event to align with your desired outcome. By revising the past, you are actually recreating your future, because the future is a projection of your past beliefs and assumptions. For example, if you had a disagreement with a colleague at work, instead of carrying the negative energy of that encounter, revise it in your imagination. See the conversation going harmoniously. Feel the mutual respect and understanding. Hear the words of agreement and cooperation. By revising the past event, you are changing your state of consciousness and consequently your future interactions with that person. Revision can be applied to any past event that continues to affect your present state of consciousness negatively. By mentally rewriting these events, you are asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. Another powerful technique is the use of affirmative prayer, or what I call imaginative assertion. Unlike traditional prayer, which often takes the form of petition or supplication, affirmative prayer is the declaration of what is already true in spirit. It is claiming what is already yours by divine right. For instance, instead of saying, "God, please heal my body," say with conviction, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." Feel the truth of these words. Embody them. Let them permeate your consciousness until they become your dominant state. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, because you are not asking from a place of lack or need. You are affirming the truth of your being, the truth of who you really are. I want to emphasize that the techniques that visualization, revision, affirmative prayer, or any other are merely aids to help you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The techniques themselves are not the power. The power is in your consciousness, in your ability to assume and persist in a state. Let me share with you a personal experience that illustrates this principle. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I lacked the funds to make the journey. Instead of dwelling on my lack of resources, I began to assume the feeling of already being in Barbados. Each night before sleep, I would imagine lying in my familiar bed in my family home in Barbados. I would hear the distinct sound of the palm trees rustling in the Caribbean breeze. I would smell the salt air and feel the warmth of the tropical climate. I persisted in this assumption for several weeks, falling asleep each night in the feeling of already being in Barbados. Then, one day I received a letter from my brother in Barbados. Inside the letter was a ticket for passage to Barbados, a gift from my family. The law had worked perfectly. My internal assumption had externalized itself. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must apply it correctly. You must ask from the state of having, not from the state of wanting. You must embody the consciousness of already being what you want to be, already having what you want to have, already experiencing what you want to experience. Now I want to address a common misconception. Many people believe that they must get rid of all negative thoughts to manifest their desires. This is not true. Thoughts and of themselves do not create reality. It is the feeling, the emotional state, the consciousness that creates reality. You will always have passing thoughts, both positive and negative. The key is not to identify the negative thoughts, not to dwell in them, not to make them your home. Instead, choose deliberately the state you wish to occupy and persist in it despite any contrary thoughts or appearances. This brings me to another important principle, the principle of attention. Whatever you focus your attention on, you energize and manifest in your life. Your attention is like a spotlight. Whatever it illuminates becomes your reality. Therefore, be selective with your attention. Direct it consciously toward what you want, not toward what you do not want. If you want health, do not give your attention to illness. If you want wealth, do not give your attention to poverty. If you want harmonious relationships, do not give your attention to conflict. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. I once worked with a businessman who was facing financial ruin. His company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and all external evidence pointed to an inevitable collapse. I taught him the principle of attention. I told him, do not give life to the bankruptcy by dwelling on it, by talking about it, by feeling the despair of it. Instead, direct your attention to the state of financial prosperity. I instructed him to create a mental scene that implied the financial turnaround of his company. In his imagination, he crafted a scene where his accountant was showing him balance sheets indicating substantial profits. He felt the relief, the joy, the gratitude of this turnaround. He persisted in this mental exercise for several weeks. During this time, an opportunity presented itself that he would have missed had he been focused on bankruptcy. This opportunity led to a partnership that not only saved his company, but propelled it to new heights of success. This is the law in operation. By directing his attention to the desired state, by dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. I want to underscore that this principle is not about ignoring reality or living in denial. It is about understanding the true nature of reality. The external world is a shadow or reflection of internal states. By changing your internal state, you inevitably change the external reflection. Think of it this way. If you are looking at your reflection in a mirror and you do not like what you see, it would be futile to try to change the reflection directly. You must change what is being reflected yourself. Similarly, if you do not like what you see in your world, you must change your concept of yourself, your state of consciousness. This brings me to another crucial aspect of asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, self-concept. Your self-concept, your idea of who you are, is the foundation of all your manifestations. Everything you experience is a reflection of your concept of yourself. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will manifest experiences that confirm this unworthiness. If you see yourself as a victim, you will manifest experiences of victimization. If you see yourself as powerful, loved, and abundant, you will manifest experiences that confirm these qualities. Therefore, the most fundamental change you can make is to change your concept of yourself. Assume the feeling of being the person you want to be. Live from that assumption. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. I recall a young actor who came to me discouraged by his lack of success in the film industry. Despite his talent and dedication, he had been unable to secure significant roles. When I inquired about his self-concept, he revealed that he saw himself as a struggling actor, always on the periphery of success. I told him, that is your problem. You are assuming the state of struggle, and the universe is faithfully reflecting back to you that state. You must change your concept of yourself. You must see yourself as a successful actor in demand for major roles. I guided him in constructing a scene that implied his success in the industry. In his imagination, he would read reviews praising his performance in a major film. He would feel the satisfaction, the pride, the fulfillment of being recognized for his talent. He persisted in this new self-concept for several months. And then, as if by magic, though it was not magic but law, he was called to audition for a significant role in a major production. He secured the role, and his performance was indeed praised by critics, just as he had imagined. This is the law. By changing his concept of himself, he changed his reality. He acted in such a way that the universe could not say no. Now I want to address a question that often arises: what about collective events or global conditions? Can my individual consciousness affect these? The answer is yes, but with a caveat. Your experience of the collective is still your individual experience. You can only experience what matches your state of consciousness. For instance, in times of economic downturn, some people experience hardship and lack, while others experience opportunity and abundance. Same external condition, different individual experiences because of different states of consciousness. Therefore, do not be concerned with changing the world. Be concerned with changing yourself, your concept of yourself. As you do this, your experience of the world will change. And as more individuals do this, the collective experience changes as well. I want to emphasize that this principle is not selfish or self-centered in a negative sense. It is simply a recognition of the law of consciousness. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot project what you do not possess within yourself. By focusing on your own state of consciousness, you are actually serving others in the highest way possible, by becoming an embodiment of what you wish to see in the world. Let me share with you one final example to illustrate the power of this principle. A woman I knew desired to help the homeless in her community. She volunteered at shelters, donated money and resources, advocated for policy changes, all external actions coming from a place of compassion, but also from a consciousness of otherness, of separation. Despite her efforts, she felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem and frustrated by the seeming lack of progress. I suggested a different approach. Instead of seeing the homeless as separate from herself, as others to be helped, I advised her to assume the state of consciousness where homelessness was already solved. In her imagination, she created scenes where the once homeless individuals in her community were now living in comfortable homes, engaged in meaningful work, integrated into society. She felt the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of this fulfilled state. As she persisted in this new state of consciousness, something remarkable began to happen. She found herself inspired with new ideas and approaches. She connected with individuals and organizations that shared her vision. Resources that were previously unavailable suddenly materialized. Within a year, her community had implemented innovative solutions that significantly reduced homelessness. Was this a coincidence? No, it was the law in operation. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, by asking from the state of fulfillment, rather than from the state of lack or problem, she asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. In conclusion, I want to remind you of the core principle we've explored tonight. The universe cannot say no to you when you ask from the state of fulfillment, when you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. This is the art and the science of effective prayer. Remember, your consciousness is the only reality. What you assume, you become. What you believe, you receive. What you embody, you manifest. The external world is a shadow, a reflection of internal states. Therefore, choose wisely the state you wish to occupy. Dwell in it. Live from it. Fall asleep in it. And watch as the universe rearranges itself to reflect back to you your new concept of yourself. The power is within you. It has always been within you. It is your own wonderful human imagination, which is God in action. Use it deliberately, use it lovingly, use it wisely. When you know how to appropriate from the state of fulfillment, rather than from the state of lack, there is no power in heaven or on earth that can say no to your request. For in truth, you are not requesting anything. You are claiming what is already yours by divine right. Go forth now with this knowledge. Apply it in your daily life. Test it. Prove it to yourself. And experience the freedom, the joy, the abundance that is your birthright. Remember always, you are the operant power in your world. You are the author of your life story. You are the God of your universe. Ask from that place of power, from that place of knowing, and the universe cannot indeed, it will not say no. I thank you for your attention tonight. Blessings upon each and every one of you. May you go forth and create deliberately, consciously, and joyfully. I have shared with you tonight the principle that transcends all religious dogmas, all philosophical systems, all cultural traditions. It is the principle of consciousness, the principle of imagination, the principle of assumption. It is the principle that Jesus taught when he said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." This principle has been taught by the great spiritual teachers throughout history, though often veiled in symbolism and allegory. Tonight I have attempted to unveil it, to present it in its naked simplicity, so that you may apply it directly in your life. The great secret is this: the world is yourself pushed out. Everything that you experience is a reflection of your own consciousness. Change your consciousness and then you change your world. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. As you leave here tonight, I encourage you to begin immediately to apply this principle. Choose a desire, something that you truly want to be, to have, or to experience. Construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of this desire. Enter into the scene. Make it as vivid and as real as possible. Feel the emotions that would be yours if your desire were already fulfilled. Then each night as you go to sleep, replay this scene in your imagination. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do this faithfully, persistently, and you will be amazed at how quickly your external reality begins to rearrange itself to match your internal assumption. Remember, the universe responds not to your words, not to your thoughts, but to your state of consciousness, to your feeling state. When you feel that something is real, when you embody the state of its reality, the universe has no choice but to reflect back to you that reality. This is the true meaning of faith. Faith is not belief in the unknown. Faith is the feeling of the known. Faith is the feeling of possession of that which is not yet visible to the senses. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you operate from faith, when you live from the end, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are asking in such a way that the universe may not say no. I leave you with this final thought: you are divine. You are God in human form. The power that created and sustains the universe resides within you as your own wonderful human imagination. Use this power consciously, use it lovingly, and there is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. Go forth now and create the life of your dreams. For indeed, it is your divine right and your divine responsibility to do so. Thank you, and God bless you all. This secret is encapsulated in 5 powerful words: be silent, anything that you want will happen. Now you might be wondering, what does it mean to be silent? And how can silence possibly bring about the manifestation of our deepest desires? My dear friends, the silence I speak of is not merely the absence of sound, but a state of being, a profound inner quietude that allows the creative power within you to work its magic. In this silence, you will find the birthplace of all creation. It is the womb of the universe, the void from which all things emerge. When you learn to cultivate this silence, to nurture it within yourself, you tap into the very source of all that is, was, and ever will be. But let me be clear, this is not a passive silence. It is not a state of inaction or resignation. No, the silence I speak of is alive, vibrant, and pulsing with creative energy. It is a silence filled with the certainty of your desire fulfilled, a silence pregnant with possibility. Imagine, if you will, a seed planted in the earth. Does it make a sound as it grows? Does it announce its intentions to the world? No, it grows in silence, pushing through the soil, reaching for the sun, all without a whisper. And yet in that silence, a miracle unfolds. From a tiny seed emerges a mighty oak, a beautiful flower, or a bountiful fruit tree. Your desires, my friends, are like that seed. They do not need to be shouted from the rooftops or constantly verbalized. In fact, the more you speak of them, the more you rob them their power. Instead, plant them in the fertile soil of your imagination, water them with the certainty of their fulfillment, and then be silent. Allow them to grow in the secret, sacred space of your inner world. This silence is not about suppressing your desires or denying their existence. On the contrary, it's about giving them the space and energy they need to manifest. When you constantly speak about what you want, when you continually focus on the lack of it in your life, you're essentially telling the universe, this is what I don't have. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, continues to reflect that lack back to you. But when you plant your desire in silence, when you nurture it in the quiet certainty of its fulfillment, you're sending a different message. You're saying to the universe, this is already mine. It is done. And the universe has no choice but to conform to this new reality you've created within yourself. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this principle. There was once a man who desperately wanted a promotion at work. He talked about it constantly, telling anyone who'd listened about how much he deserved it, how hard he had worked, and how unfair it was that he hadn't received it yet. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still the promotion eluded him. Then one day he heard these very words we're discussing today. He decided to try a different approach. He stopped talking about the promotion altogether. Instead, he went into the silence of his imagination. There he saw himself sitting in the new office, felt the pride and satisfaction of his new position, heard the congratulations of his colleagues. He lived from the end, experiencing the fulfillment of his desire as a present fact. In his outer world, he continued to work diligently, but he no longer spoke of the promotion. He no longer complained about not having it. He simply knew in the depths of his being that it was already his. And do you know what happened? Within a month, he was called into his boss's office and offered the very position he had been imagining. This, my friends, is the power of silence. It is the power of living from the end, of experiencing your desire fulfilled in the inner world of imagination. For when you do this, when you truly embody the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the outer world has no choice but to reshape itself to match your intent. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this just positive thinking? Isn't this just another version of the power of positive thought? And to that I say emphatically no. This is not mere positive thinking. This is not about trying to consult that something good might happen. This is about knowing with absolute certainty that what you desire is already yours. You see, in the realm of imagination, there is no future. There is only the eternal now. When you enter into the silence of your imagination and experience your desire as fulfilled, you are not hoping for a future event. You are experiencing a present reality. And it is this present experience, this living from the end, that has the power to reshape your world. Let me explain further. The world you see around you, the circumstances of your life, are nothing more than the outpicturing of your estates. Your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, your job, your relationships, your financial situation, these are all shadows, reflections of what you hold to be true in your imagination. So when you enter into the silence and live from the end, experiencing your desire as fulfilled, you are quite literally changing your world from the inside out. You are impressing upon the subconscious mind a new concept of self, a new pattern of thinking and being. And your subconscious mind, which knows no difference between what is vividly imagined and what is actually experienced in the outer world, begins to work tirelessly to bring about the conditions that match this new self-concept. This, my dear friends, is why silence is so powerful. In silence, you are free from the limitations of your current circumstances. In silence, you are free from the doubts and fears that may plague your waking mind. In silence, you are free to be, to experience, to live as the person who has already achieved their heart's desire. But let me be clear, this silence, this living from the end, is not a one-time event. It's not something you do once and then sit back and wait for results. No, it is a state of being that you must return to again and again until it becomes your natural way of existing in the world. Think of it like this. If you were to plant a seed and then immediately after see if it had grown, what would happen? The seed would never have the chance to take root, to sprout, to grow into the magnificent plant it was meant to be. In the same way, if you enter into the silence, experience your desires fulfilled, and then immediately return to your old patterns of thinking and speaking, constantly checking to see if your desire has manifested, you rob it of the very energy it needs to come into being. Instead, you must trust in the process. You must have faith in the power of your imagination. You must know with every fiber of your being that what you have experienced in the silence of your imagination is more real, more true than anything you can see or touch in the outer world. This brings us to another crucial aspect of being silent, letting go. Once you have planted the seed of your desire in the fertile soil of your imagination, once you have lived from the end and experienced it as fulfilled, you must let it go. Release it into the hands of the universe, trusting that the same power that turns an acorn into an oak tree, that turns a caterpillar into a butterfly, will bring your desire into manifestation. This letting go is not about forgetting your desire or no longer wanting it. It's about releasing the anxiety, the doubt, the need to control how and when it will come about. It's about surrendering to the wisdom of the universe, knowing that it has infinite ways of bringing about what you desire, ways that your limited human mind could never conceive of. Remember, the universe is not constrained by what you consider possible or probable. It operates according to laws that transcend human understanding. Your job is not to figure out how your desire will manifest. Your job is simply to live from the end, to be the person who already has what they desire, and to trust in the perfect unfolding of divine timing. Now, some of you might be wondering, but Neville, what if I have multiple desires? What if there are many things I want to manifest in my life? And to that I say, wonderful. The creative power within you is limitless. It is not constrained by time or space or the number of desires you hold in your heart. However, I would caution you against trying to focus on too many things at once. Remember, the power lies in your ability to live from the end, to fully embody the feeling of your desire fulfilled. This becomes more challenging when you're juggling multiple desires. Instead, I suggest you focus on one primary desire at a time. Choose the one that, if fulfilled, would have the greatest positive impact on your life. Then enter into the silence and live from the end of that desire fulfilled. As you do this, you may find that many of your other desires naturally fall into place. For when you change your concept of self at a fundamental level, every aspect of your life begins to shift to align with this new self-concept. Let's delve deeper into this concept of living from the end. What does it really mean to live although your desire is already fulfilled? It means assuming the feeling, the state of consciousness of the person who already has what you desire. If your desire is for financial abundance, then in the silence of your imagination, feel the peace and security that comes with having more than enough. Feel the joy of being able to buy what you want when you want. Feel the satisfaction of being able to help others, to give generously. Embody these feelings so completely that when you open your eyes and return to your Santinov, if your desire is for a loving relationship, then in your imagination feel the warmth of your partner's embrace. Feel the joy of shared laughter, the comfort of deep understanding. Feel the satisfaction of giving and receiving love freely and fully. Let these feelings permeate your being so completely that you carry the energy of love with you wherever you go. If your desire is for a successful career, then in your inner world, feel the pride of achievement. Feel the satisfaction of doing work you love. Feel the respect and admiration of your colleagues. Embody these feelings so thoroughly that you begin to carry yourself with the confidence and poise of someone who is already successful. The key here is feeling. Your feelings are the secret to your power. They are the language of the subconscious mind, the fuel that powers your manifestations. When you can genuinely feel as though your desire is fulfilled, when you can maintain that feeling regardless of your outer circumstances, you have mastered the art of creation. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, this sounds like self-deception. Aren't we just fooling ourselves? And to that I say emphatically no. You are not deceiving yourself. You are aligning yourself with a higher truth, a deeper reality. You see, my dear friends, time is an illusion. The future you desire already exists in the infinite now of imagination. When you enter into the silence and live from the end, you are not creating something new. You are simply choosing to experience a reality that already exists. Think of it like this. I imagine you are in a dark room and there's a light switch on the wall. The electricity, the potential for light is already there. It exists whether the switch is on or off. When you flip the switch, you're not creating the light. You're simply choosing to experience it. In the same way, when you live from the end in your imagination, you're not creating your desire. You're choosing to experience it, to align yourself with it. This is why being silent is so crucial. When you constantly talk about what you want, when you focus on the lack of it in your life, you're essentially keeping the light switch off. You're choosing to experience the reality of not having. But when you go into the silence, when you live from the end and feel the joy of your desire fulfilled, you're flipping that switch. You're choosing to experience the reality where your desire is already manifest. Now I want to address something that many of you may be struggling with. You might be thinking, but Neville, I've tried this. I've imagined my desire fulfilled. I've tried to feel it real, but nothing has changed. What am I doing wrong? My dear friends, if this is you, I want you to know that you're not alone. Many people struggle with this at first. The key lies in persistence and in truly understanding what it means to live from the fan. You see, living from the end is not about visualizing your desire for a few minutes each day and then returning to your old patterns of thinking and being. It's about a fundamental shift in your self-concept. It's about becoming, in your imagination and in your feeling, the person who already has what you desire. This takes practice and dedication. It takes a willingness to challenge your old beliefs and patterns of thinking. But most of all, it takes faith. Faith not in some external power, but in the creative power of your own imagination. Remember, your imagination is not separate from reality. It is the very substance of reality. The world you see around you was once only imagined. Every invention, every work of art, every human achievement began as a seed in someone's imagination. Your desires are no different. They are the seeds of your future reality, waiting to be planted in the fertile soil of your imagination and nurtured in the silence of your being. So if you've been struggling, I urge you not to give up. Return to the silence. Go deeper into the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Make it more real, more vivid, more alive within you. And most importantly, persist. Persist in the face of every contrary appearance in your outer world. For it is your persistence, your unwavering faith in the reality of your amadat that will ultimately bring it into manifestation. Now let's talk about another crucial aspect of this process, detachment. When I say be silent, anything that you wish will happen, the silence I'm referring to also includes a detachment from the how and when of your manifestation. You see, many people make the mistake of trying to control every aspect of their manifestation. They imagine their desire fulfilled, but then they start worrying about how it will come about. They start trying to manipulate people and circumstances to bring about their desire. But this is a form of doubt. It's a lack of faith in the power of your imaginal act. True silence, true faith means letting go of the need to control. It means trusting that the same intelligence that keeps your heart beating, that grows your hair and nails, that maintains the perfect balance of life on this planet, is more than capable of bringing your desire into manifestation in the perfect way and at the perfect time. This detachment is not indifference. It's not about not caring whether your desire manifests or not. Rather, it's about being so certain of its manifestation that you no longer feel the need to manipulate or control. It's about resting in the absolute knowing that what you have experienced in your imagination is more real than anything in your outer world, and that your outer world must, by law, conform to this inner reality. Let me give you an example to illustrate this point. Imagine you've ordered a package online. Once you've placed the order, do you sit by your mailbox day and night, worrying about whether the package will arrive? Do you call the shipping company every hour to check on its status? Of course not. You trust that the package is on its way. You go about your life knowing that it will arrive at the perfect time. This is the kind of detachment I'm talking about. Once you've placed your order with the universe by living from the end in your imagination, let it return. Trust that it's on its way. Go about your life from the state of consciousness of someone who already has what they desire. Now, this doesn't mean you become passive. You still take inspired action when it presents itself. But this action comes from a place of being, not from a place of lack or need. It's the natural expression of the new you, the you that is living from the end. Let's delve deeper into this concept of inspired action. When you're truly living from the end, when you fully embody the state of consciousness of having your desire fulfilled, you'll find that opportunities and inspirations naturally come to you. These are not actions you force or plan. They arise spontaneously from your new state of being. For instance, if you're living from the end of being financially abundant, you might suddenly feel inspired to start a new business venture. If you're living from the end of being in a loving relationship, you might feel moved to join a new social group where you'll meet like-minded people. These inspirations are your new state of consciousness expressing itself in your outer world. The key is to follow these inspirations without attachment to the outcome. You're not taking these actions to make your desire happen. You're taking them because they're the natural expression of who you now are in your imagination. This brings us to another important point, the role of action in this process. Some people misunderstand the principle of living from the end and think it means they should do nothing in their outer world. They believe that if they just imagine enough, their desire will magically appear without any effort on their part. But this is not what living from the end means. Living from the end doesn't negate action, it informs action. When you're truly living from the end, your actions naturally align with your desired state. You begin to act like the person who already has what you desire. If you're living from the end of being a successful author, for example, if you'll sit around waiting for a book to magically appear with your name on it, you write, you edit, you submit your work to publishers, but you do all of this from the state of consciousness of already being a successful author. You're not writing to become an author, you're writing because you are an author. This subtle shift in consciousness makes all the difference. It takes the struggle out of your actions. It aligns you with opportunities that support your new state of being. It allows you to act with confidence and certainty, knowing that you're not working towards your desire, but from your desire already fulfilled. Now, I want to address something that many of you may be grappling with. You might be thinking, but Neville, what about the evidence of my senses? How can I live from the end when everything in my outer world tells me that my desire is not yet fulfilled? This, my dear friends, is where faith comes in. Not blind faith, not wishful thinking, not faith, but faith based on understanding. Understanding that your senses show you the world that was, not the world that is becoming. Understanding that your imagination is the true substance of reality, and that what you see in your outer world is simply the shadow cast by your inner states. Your senses are wonderful servants, but they make poor masters. They can only show you what has been, what has already manifested. But your imagination shows you what can be, what is in the process of becoming. When you live from the end, when you experience your desire as fulfilled in your imagination, you are seeing with the eye of faith. You are perceiving a reality that your physical senses cannot yet detect, but which is nonetheless real and in the process of manifesting. This is why silence is so crucial. In the silence of your imagination, you are free from the limitations imposed by your senses. You are free to experience your desire as fulfilled, regardless of what your outer world is showing you. But make no mistake, this is not about denying your current reality or pretending that things are different than they are. It's about understanding that your current reality is the result of past thoughts and beliefs, and that by changing your inner state, you set in motion the forces that will change your outer world. Think of it like this. Your outer world is like a mirror, reflecting back to you your innermost thoughts and beliefs. When you change what's being reflected, your inner state, the reflection must change. It has no choice. This is law. So when your senses tell you that your desire is not yet fulfilled, don't argue with them. Don't try to convince yourself that what you're seeing isn't real. Instead, thank your senses for showing you what has been, and then return to the silence of your imagination where you can experience what will be. This is the true meaning of faith. It's not about believing despite evidence to the contrary. It's about knowing that the evidence of your imagination is more real, more substantial than anything your physical senses can show you. Now let's talk about something that many of you may be struggling with. the concept of time in relation to your manifestations. When I say be silent, anything that you wish will happen, many of you might be wondering, but when will it happen? How long do I have to wait? My dear friends, these questions, while natural, come from a misunderstanding of the nature of time and manifestation. You see, in the realm of imagination, there is no time. There is only the eternal now. When you truly live from the end, when you fully embody the state of your desire fulfilled, you're not waiting for anything to happen. It has already happened in the only place it ever could happen, in your consciousness. The appearance of your desire in your outer world is not the manifestation. It's merely the shadow, the outer reflection of what has already occurred within you. The true manifestation, the real creation, happens the moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and believe in its reality. From this perspective, there is no waiting. There is only being. Being the person who already has what you desire. Living from that state of consciousness. Allowing your outer world to catch up with your inner knowing. This is why patience is so important in this process. Not the kind of patience that comes from gritting your teeth and enduring until something happens, but the patience that comes from absolute knowing. The kind of patience you have when you've planted a seed. You don't stand over it, demanding that it grow faster. You trust in the natural process of growth, knowing that in its own perfect timing, the seed will sprout and grow into a magnificent plant. Your desires are like that seed. Once planted in the fertile soil of your imagination and nurtured with the feeling of their fulfillment, they will manifest in your outer world in their own perfect timing. Your job is not to make them grow faster, but to maintain the state of consciousness of already having them. This brings us to another important point, the concept of revision. Sometimes, despite our best efforts to live from the end, we find ourselves slipping back into old patterns of thinking and being. We might have moments of doubt, or we might react to our current circumstances in ways that contradict our desired state. When this happens, it's crucial not to berate yourself or to see it as a failure. Instead, use the power of revision. At the end of each day, review the events of your day in your imagination. If there were any moments where you reacted from a state of lack or limitation, revise them. See yourself responding from the state of your wish fulfilled. Feel how you would have felt, thought how you would have thought, if your desire was already manifest. This practice of revision serves two purposes. First, it reinforces your desired state of consciousness, helping you to more consistently live from the instinct. Second, it literally rewrites your subconscious memories. Remember, your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience. By revising your day in your imagination, you're literally changing your past, and in doing so, changing the trajectory of future. Now, I want to address something that many of you may be concerned about. You might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this selfish? Shouldn't I be focusing on helping others rather than manifesting my own desires? My dear friends, this is a common misconception, but it couldn't be further from the truth. You see, when you live from the end, when you embody the state of consciousness of your desire fulfilled, you become more, not less. You expand your capacity to give, to love, to serve. Think about it. If your desire is for financial abundance and you successfully manifest that abundance, aren't you in a better position to help others? If your desire is for radiant health and you manifest that health, aren't you better able to care for those around you? If your desire is for a fulfilling relationship and you manifest that relationship, don't you have more love to share with the world? You see, manifesting your desires is not about greed or selfishness. It's about becoming the fullest, most expanded version of yourself. It's about aligning yourself with the abundance of the universe so that you can be a channel for that abundance to flow to others. Moreover, when you master this principle of living from the end, you gain the ability to help others in profound ways. You can teach them this principle, showing them how to transform their own lives. You become a living example of what's possible when one aligns themselves with the creative power of their imagination. So never feel guilty about focusing on your desires. Your desires are not random. They are the universe speaking to you, showing you the direction of your growth and expansion. By fulfilling your desires, you are fulfilling your purpose, becoming more of who you truly are. And in doing so, you naturally uplift those around you. Now, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next 30 days, I want you to commit to living from the end of your most cherished desire. Choose one desire, the one that resonates most deeply with you, and for the next 30 days, live as though it were already fulfilled. Each night before you go to sleep, enter into the silence of your imagination. See yourself in the scenario of your desire fulfilled. Feel the feelings you would feel if your desire were already manifest. Experience it with all your senses. Make it as real and as vivid as you possibly can. Then carry that feeling with you throughout your day. No matter what your outer circumstances show you, maintain the inner knowing that your desire is already yours. Be silent about it. Don't speak of it as something you want or need. Live from the state of already having it. If you find yourself slipping back into old patterns of thinking or being, don't berate yourself. Simply revise those moments in your imagination. See yourself responding from the state of a wish fulfilled. At the end of these 30 days, you will be amazed at the changes that have occurred, not just in your outer world, but in your inner world as well. You will have developed a new habit of consciousness, a new way of being in the world. Remember, my dear friends, you are not bound by your past or by your current circumstances. You are bound only by your imagination and your willingness to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. The power to change your life, to manifest your heart's desires, lies within you. It always has, and it always will.